The Evil Within, known as Psycho Break in Japan, is a 2014 survival horror video game developed by Tango Gameworks and released by Bethesda Softworks for the PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, Xbox 360, Xbox One, and Microsoft Windows. The guy behind Tango Gameworks has worked with Capcom games, which are well known for designing content which take inspiration from the occult, one of which is Remember Me, for which I have done a video of in episode 1. He goes by the name of Shinji Mikami, and himself has designed games with prevalent Masonic and Knights Templar symbolism. I would mention in particular the Resident Evil series and Devil May Cry. Indeed, this is a horror game, and I would not expect it to be about cute kittens and flying unicorns, but there is some very specific symbolism shown in this game which links it to Freemasonry and occult knowledge. The game starts with Sebastian, a detective which finds himself in very mysterious circumstances after investigating some homicides in a hospital. At the hospital, he witnesses his team getting eliminated in a paranormal way by what appears to be a white-hooded demonic entity with half of his face burned, after which himself is being knocked unconscious by the same entity. He then wakes up in the same hospital, but he finds himself in a loop of unfortunate confrontations, only to find that he is part of a never-ending matrix, a mind experiment created by the paranormal entity which he encountered in the beginning. I will now proceed to cover some of the occult symbolism I found in this game, as well as the connections which can be made between events in the plot and real-life conspiracies. First, let us examine the symbology of their logo. This is becoming a common symbol used in recent times. We see a nail going through the middle, but taking in consideration that there are 3 words, we can perhaps make a reasonable assumption and say that there are 3 nails. I will suggest now that these 3 nails could represent the nails from Christ's cross. Also, we can observe that the barbed wire on the scratching demonic hand is performing a particular shape, which I associate with a capstone of the Masonic pyramid. I will now show 2 examples where these 3 nails are being used. First is a very popular electronic music artist called Skrillex. This artist also enjoys flashing Baphomets and other occult symbolism during his shows or in his videos. The second is of course the well-known drink, Monster, for which this video on YouTube has made our community look like fools, but I will not be covering that right now. The next logo that the Evil Within uses is this one eye stylized as a red flower surrounded by barbed wire. Of course, the one eye representing the all-seeing eye of the Egyptian sun god Ra, which watches over everything. This part of common worship in Freemasonry, Knights Templar, as well as other secret societies. Knowing this and watching this particular message on the wall during the gameplay, quote, "He's watching, we can't leave," end quote, can show us that what they are worshipping is not really a positive god. Also, object in common worship in Freemasonry is Lucifer, aka Satan, which is represented by the Baphomet. It doesn't take long for someone playing this game to find himself face to face with the Baphomet during the intro, which is of course surrounded by other Masonic elements like the checkerboard floor or the pillars. We are talking here about 3 or 4 specific symbols being put together in one frame, and the chances for that to be a coincidence are close to impossible. In fact, the entire hospital in which most of the main events are taking place has a checkerboard Masonic floor. Every time we are finished with a chapter of the story, we are being teleported forcefully back in the hospital, and we wake up in a dark room. The walls of the hospital are constantly showing us the XX, separated by a line, which is the seal of Saturn, which is Lucifer, which is Satan. The connection between Saturn, the black cube, and Lucifer has been established in my previous video, but you can verify this information from other sources and see for yourself. For me, the main point where this evil connotation of the symbol reveals itself is in the sacrifice puzzle, where you have several platforms on which you see placed human beings inside body bags, ready to be sacrificed. On each of the platforms we can clearly see the same XX separated by a line symbol. To be able to save your game, you need to sign some papers in which we see a symbol very similar to the Knights Templar emblem. This symbol is also seen on other objects throughout the environment. After we have done our first save in the hospital, the ghost receptionist takes us to a chair where forcefully our main character gets electroshocked. After this event takes place, we are being shown that this is the way through which we will upgrade our weapons, ammo stocks, fire rate, and other abilities. You also see the Templar emblem symbol at the top of the chair. So to progress through the game, we have to constantly and willingly electroshock ourselves repeatedly to improve our skills and technology. This doesn't make any sense. In my opinion, this is part of a whole series of symbolism in this game that points out to MK Ultra style mind control. In the artwork 1984 by George Orwell, the main character is also being put through electroshock torture therapy to gradually push out his true self and program a new personality which will love the current system and establishment which he used to deeply disagree and not comply with.
Do you remember writing in your diary, freedom is the freedom to say 2 + 2 = 4?
Yes.
How many fingers am I holding up, Winston?
4.
And if the party says there are not 4, but 5, then how many?
5.
No. That's no use. You're lying.
And of the present, Winston. Now, what of the future? A question. How does one man assert power over another?
By making him suffer.
Exactly. Obedience is not enough. Power is inflicting pain and humiliation, otherwise you cannot be sure. Power is tearing human minds apart and putting them together again in new shapes of your own choosing. Power is not a means, it is an end. In our world, there will only be triumph and self-abasement. Everything else we shall destroy. The past is forbidden. Why? Because when we can cut man from his own past, then we can cut him from his family, his children, other men. There is no loyalty except loyalty to the party. There is no love except love of Big Brother. All competing pleasures we will destroy.
Of course, this is just a reenactment of what truly happened in well-documented and very real programs such as MK Ultra. In The Evil Within, we are constantly being shown how people's minds are being taken over and experimented on, to the point where we also have to commit brain surgeries ourselves in order to pass to the next section of the game.
Subject number 58, test 92A, electrode placement in M33, pain region, ineffective. anticipate greater results with stimulation of section F7, the consent region of the neocortex. Subject imprint, only partially successful. Individual personality traits linger.
In one of the interesting mind control paper plans, we see a fascinating all-seeing eye symbol once again. The drawing style seems to be influenced very much by Leonardo da Vinci's works, but of course they pervert it into this very evil message. In my interpretation, the all-seeing eye and the people who worship it want to take control and grab both the brain and the heart of men. The brain being a symbol of the thinking process and the heart being a symbol of spirituality. If you successfully manage to dumb down and electroshock both these functions towards following you and letting go of their independence, thus forming a programmable pseudo-self, you have managed to conquer the world and steer it towards any direction that you want. This is the main goal of the secret societies, but especially Freemasonry, which the symbolism of prevails in this game. In the movie Metropolis from 1925, a new man, or shall I say post-human, has been created. A real person has been taken and through some experiments it is transformed to a pseudo-self programmable man-machine for the purposes of entertaining the masses and keeping them occupied. We will not be surprised when we see that behind the post-human slave creation we see a very interesting symbol, the satanic pentagram. Let us not also be surprised when we see in our contemporary entertainment completely different artists which claim to be independent and original use on stage the same Metropolis-inspired automaton gear. So are they really independent, or just post-human controlled slaves with the objective to keep the masses occupied and mesmerized? That is of course for you to decide. In this very interesting movie we also see most of humanity working hard to keep the city going. Specifically, a large machine must be maintained. At times this large machine overheats and ends up killing a large portion of the workers situated in its immediate range. In the movie, this event is also compared under the form of a vision to the sacrifices of ancient times. The workers are climbing the stairs and going towards the top to be sacrificed in favor of the god Moloch, which if we dig enough, we find that it is a bull god. What other bull god do we know which requires sacrifices? Of course. Another symbol that portrays the same message is this brain surrounded by barbed wire. We can say that the brain is captured, nailed and prepared for modulation. To complete a series of symbols regarding the transformation of man into a lifeless automaton, I will add here the Great Boxed Enemy. The Boxed Enemy is a victim which has been completely taken over and acts like a zombie, thus trying to kill you. The box is a symbol of complete success in controlling a person. This is a black box that we can easily associate to the cube of Saturn. Thus the body and the brain of this person have been literally entrapped by the cube of Saturn. And then we have people in the real world proudly wearing this symbol of enslavement. There is probably more to this game than what I have managed to find, but for me this is enough proof to say that this game contains in itself occult symbols, mysteries and concepts that have been placed on purpose by members of the secret societies which are practicers of the Luciferian doctrine. Thank you for watching.
If you want a vision of the future, Winston, imagine a
boot stamping on a human face for